Has anyone else been giving any speeches?
I'll be doing a Facebook Live tonight.
Okay.
Well, today.
Well, today at 4.
And what will that one be on?
This one's going to be actually on the green
Scattering gardens.
The scattering. We're making a scattering garden over a showing the natural scattering garden that we're processing put together. We hope to be able to have it ready for memorial. We're going to let people come out of the closet and off the mantles and allow people to do some scattering.
Smash dump.
That
An ash dump.
an ash dump. Yes.
Scattering garden is
Positive spin on it. Right.
Better way of
The politically correct way. Yeah.
scattering garden.
The word of the day is euphemism.
Well, I guess I'll share it. Every week I've been doing these Facebook Live videos. So
Yes,
there you
you
go.
have.
I have. By golly.
Morning, Dave.
Down the end.
We have one right down here.
And I was hoping Abby Tall was going to be in here because I'm sure she has quite a bit to share with all of her fun stuff going on, and I thought she was back. But hopefully next week she is speaker number 1, so we should confirm with her.
She may be trying to enter from the other link, so I will message.
And otherwise, we have a guest this morning. And is this an invited guest that somebody could introduce?
well, we know her.
Okay.
Well, I know this is several of us know her. This is Patty, and she's the interim executive director at the Timber Growers in Newport.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us this morning.
And I'm under the impression that I'll be speaking a little more. And my executive board said, "You ever check out Toastmasters?" I said, "No." And speech class was 4 years ago than we talk about these days. Yeah. Speech and debate where all the people judge everything.
You got it.
Yeah.
So we just said you over breakfast. You're welcome.
In between bites.
Yes. Well, in that case, I will hand it over for our Toastmaster of the day, Lee, and I'm going to send the sign-up sheet to my group around. Please help me welcome Lee.
Good morning. Beautiful day on the coast. It's a Chamber of Commerce Day. Welcome, Patty. Glad to have you here. We have the end of the season coming up the end of the week. The fall equinox, and is the official beginning of fall, the end of summer. It's been an interesting summer. Weather-wise, it's been very, very dry. Let's see what anticipation of what our fall is going to be. So we have a fun program this morning. Is Lana with us?
She was asking to be set.
Right. Okay. I got that clear. I was going to introduce her as my favorite person from Uzbekistan. Of all the people in Uzbekistan I know. We will start with some introduction of assignments. So first of all, we'll start with our grammarian. Krista, would you like to stand and explain what your grammarian duties are? We get to explain a little bit more detail.
The grammarian's role is not just to count ums and ahs. Our particular club, we have our own specific ones, like so and so. We like to use those. So I'm going to be tracking those. I'm also going to be looking for interesting uses of the English language. And I'm not an English teacher, but I will be doing my best for mistakes in grammar. I also provide the word of the day, which I used to think was a vocabulary building exercise, but now I realize it's actually quite an exercise of impromptu use, because we track all the times you manage to fit the word of the day into your sentences. So I tried to pick a fun one. It's balderdash. Senseless talk or writing nonsense. And this one is true. I really can't stand social media, all those Facebook posts, because most of it is just complete balderdash.
And our timer is Laurie. Why can't Laurie? Would you like to stand and give a pitch for dues?
Yes. Yeah, don't forget to pay your dues. I will be timer today, and I will be showing the green we know how long the speeches are?
5 to 7.
Both 5 to 7? Okay. So I'll have green at 5, yellow, or my text, 6, red at 7, and table topics 1, 1.5, 2, and evaluations 2, 2.5, and 3. Please stay on time.
And our general evaluator today will be Kathleen. Kathleen, would you like to explain what your duties are as you critique the person you have to go home with?
There's the rub. This is my opportunity to evaluate the evaluators, Toastmaster, and anything else that is otherwise not assigned to that evaluator.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll tell her that I emailed her. Okay.
Okay? Great. Okay, I'm switching speaker number 2, speaker number 1 this morning. Christina, you are number 1. Christina this morning will be giving us a speech, 5 to 7 minute speech about when you were a protege, the impact and importance of mentors. Christina is a mountain girl from Colorado, now adapting to the Oregon coast. She believes what you do for work should bring a level of happiness and excitement, while also acknowledging the work good pay. Life is too short to spend 75% of your waking hours doing something you hate. She strives to be a mentor for others in the adventure industry, finding opportunities for people to get outside and inquire and discover. Her projects right now are involved with Salashan, where we are going right after this meeting. So probably won't run into her though this morning, but in Salashan. And Christina's speech will be evaluated by Brian Haggerty. And it's titled, I Don't Know. What do you think? So please welcome Christina.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I don't know. What do you think? If you were a 16-year-old who just inquired a question of advice from your teacher and mentor, what would you think? What would you potentially say? I was a junior and a peer leader in an adventure leadership class. I've talked about this program in previous speeches, but pretty much I am a student who's in a class leading the class. The theme of this class is experiential education and adventure education. It means we play games, but we also climb poles, climb the walls, all sorts of things. Me as a peer leader, good share. So I was a junior, and my teacher in this class was Cindy Whittemore. She's there to oversee all of us, give us advice, be an overall teacher. It was a third week in the school, and we were on initiatives. So a little bit of problem solving, a little bit of trust building, see where things go. On this particular day, I had planned my activity perfectly. I had the great scenario, I had the roles everyone needed to be, I had the rules, I had the consequences of the rules, and I had outcomes. So I arrive in the class, someone else led in the morning, or earlier in the class. Now my they start. But they start doing it. It was all wrong. It was totally not what I wanted them to do. I didn't know what was going on. But they were following the rules. They had all their roles figured out. They were following my scenario. Like, nothing was wrong. But it was all wrong. It was all wrong. I didn't know what to do. It was total balderdash. So I just let them finish the activity because I didn't know what else to do. Gave them some random questions at the end to help support the outcomes that were not supposed to happen. And the bell rung. I was done. What had just happened? So I had the next period off at school. So I walked up to the office with my teacher, Cindy Whittemore, who we typically call Wit, and sometimes Adventure Mom. As we got to her office, she asked me how my facilitation went that day. Started telling her what happened, and how everything was perfect, and they were doing it wrong. I was like, what do I do to make sure this doesn't happen? And her response, I don't know. What do you think? My response? Are you kidding me? She repeated, I don't know, what do you think? A couple of times and said, I want you to think about it, go outside, enjoy the rest of your day, and back to talk. I came back later and was like, what is this? What do you think? Like, I was so stuck in my way how it was supposed to be done. I'd only seen this activity done one way. I'd only experienced it one way. So in my mind, it was the only way to do it. And this group did it a different way. This one phrase, I don't know what you think, caused a complete paradigm shift in my brain at the age of 6. The whole concept of perspective and individual growth within a group. There's multiple ways to do activities, multiple ways to even walk through life. There's different ways to be creative. There's lots of different outcomes. And most of all, there's different perspectives. This woman, Wit, she was incredible, and she helped me figure this out. And this phrase has been consistent throughout my life. When I've hit hard points, as well as when I have been a mentor for other proteges. It's a fantastic phrase and super frustrating, and I know it, but it's worth a lot of learning. Over the years, Wit and I have been able to switch roles occasionally. I remember one particular night, I had been away for college, came home, I was 21, but she invited me over for dinner, and we drank some wine. As we were drinking wine, she told me about a particular facilitation group that she was working with. They were a basketball team. They needed this robust experience, and to really help them come together as a team as they were headed to over 1-3-something glasses of wine. We designed a multi-stage program with dynamic activities that an activity to the next. It was so Hi, Stefana! It was so cool to figure out how the activities flowed together and how my input from my experience.
No! I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. Thank you.
It was a really cool progression of activities, and later I found out it was a huge success. I was able to work with her directly to talk about industry, to talk about perspectives, and to talk about life. Over the years, our relationship has grown from teacher, mentor, to boss. She was mine. To employee, which I was her boss.
Colleague as always, and absolutely I can talk to her about anything. She is supportive, non-judgmental, she shares her experiences when needed, and knows when to allow me to learn for myself. And she always asks me to think critically about what I haven't done. She helps me be who I am and helps me find the professional I'm in. You may not have this in your life, but I hope you do. But who in your life may fit these shoes? I don't know. But what do you think?
Please take a moment, fill out the little form, or just write a letter to Christina telling her how she did. And we will welcome Svetlana, who has joined us all the way from Uzbekistan. Good morning, Svetlana.
She's muted.
She's what?
Muted.
Muted. Just wave.
Again, muted.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, there we go.
So I was thinking about the beginning of fall. It's a time when what we call the equinox is occurring. Meteorologically, or astronomically, it's fall. Actually, the meteorologists have a different time of fall. But the reason for this, that we have equinox, and the reason that we have change in seasons, is because of a little quirk in the tilt of the axis of the Earth. Now, if you're out in space, you wouldn't know which way is up and down. And in fact, if you're on the South Pole, what we call up wouldn't be up to you. But the Earth spins on an axis, and that axis is tilted 23.5 degrees. So as the Earth orbits the Sun, part of the year, the bottom of the Earth, what we refer to as the bottom, the South Pole, is closer to the Sun and tilted that direction. That is the North Pole's winter because we are tilted.
Yes.
And then as the Earth rotates
Hello?
around halfway or a quarter of the way, then the whole tilt, you're only looking at the edge of it, and so the whole side of the Earth is towards the Sun. And so as the Earth rotates, the day is the same length all the way up and down from the North Pole to the South Pole. This weekend, they will have just as much sunshine at the South Pole as they do at the North Pole. And the day will be 12 hours everywhere. So that's the beginning of our fall. And then we get into the part where the South Pole is getting closer to the Sun. We're getting further away from it, or tilting further away from it. And so we have winter. So the days are going to continue to get shorter, unfortunately, until about December. So that's why we have the seasonal change, and that's actually very fortunate that we do. We didn't have seasonal changes. It'd be really hard to grow the crops if we did. Our second speaker this morning, are you ready? Good morning. You can
Good morning. Good morning.
Speaker this morning is Svetlana.
Yes, can I speak?
Yeah, can I introduce you?
Yes, sure, please.
Okay, Svetlana Rakimova is coming all the way from Uzbekistan. The title of her speech is Oblivion, Fireworks, Old Age, Gift, Detective, Book 6 Words in Inspirational Piece of Poetry. It'll be 5 to 7 minutes, and it's Innovative Planning Task Project number 18, Descriptive Language. And the purpose of this project is for the member to practice writing a speech with an emphasis on adding language to increase interest and impact. Because Lana took an interesting way to do this project because the poem that she wrote as part of her activity in a local poetry club. They're given a number of words which they must include in a poetry piece. This is her second poem written in English. She says, I thought it fit the descriptive language project. So Pathways advises us to look for clarity, vocal variety, eye contact, gesture, audience awareness, comfort level, interest, descriptive language, and literary elements. That's a lot to look for.
Yeah.
And Svetlana joined Toastmasters in January of 2014. She is an ACS and ALB Leadership Silver Award attending. So please welcome Svetlana with Oblivion Fireworks Old Age Gift Detective Speech.
Balderdash.
Now you may speak.
Yes.
Okay.
Balderdash. Balderdash. I love you. I'm sorry that I kept you waiting for me because we had a contest in the other club, but I'm so happy that you gave me a chance to speak in Yaquina Toastmasters, and sorry for being late. Yes, this summer I became a poet. I started writing poems myself. So far, I've been only translating other people's poems. And I used to say, you know, a very famous poet, Nikolai Gumilov, a Russian poet, has a poem where he says, everything in this world has a practical application apart from poems. You can't do anything with divine poems. And I thought to myself, yes, I can do something. If I like a poem, I can translate it. And this summer, for a few days, our internet at home was down and I was sitting in a coffee shop working with free internet, Wi-Fi. And there was this group of people, very friendly to each other, very lively conversation they were having. And I was tired and I was very lonely. And I heard that they were talking about poetry. I said, as a matter of fact, I translate poems. And they said, oh, then you can stay with us if you wish. I said, but I am tired and it's late, so maybe I'll stay with you for like 10 minutes. And they said, that's absolutely fine. You can stay as long as you wish. And they gave me some poems and I said, you know, today I will experiment. I will read this poem as Sergei Yesenin used to read, as Bella Ahmadulina used to read. It's a special scansion in which, you know, poets read their own poems. And they told me, nobody read poems like this before here. Another thing that I managed to surprise them with was a quote from I forgot his name. When a Russian poet was awarded the first Nobel Prize in Literature, he said that poetry actually accelerates mind. So that they liked that too, and they were very jolly. They are a little bit like you, because they burst out laughing all of a sudden, and then I think, oh, there was something funny, otherwise they wouldn't laugh. So they've got excellent sense of humor. That said, I received the first portion of 7 or 6 words, and to my own surprise, I wrote a poem. And then a week later, I received the second portion of words, and I thought, has nothing to do with me. And then I wrote a second poem. And that second poem won a contest. I was so inspired. After that, I wrote the English poem, which I read to you the other day, Plant Trees. And yesterday, I wrote a new poem. And it seems like it only works for me if I have these random words, funny words put together, like oblivion, fireworks, old age, gift, detective, book. You will not find any connection between these words. But a poem comes all over again, and I decided to share it with you because it's very fresh. Oblivion, forgetfulness, is only an illusion. The universe of memory is full of moments. The sparks of synapses, of fireworks, emotions, the texture of neurons looks like nebulas of stars flickering from afar. We carry universe inside us. Is that an exaggeration? 100 billions of stars, the neurons, give or take a few. Oh, wow, isn't that a gift? Here is the book. Just copy all the poems. And Book of Life is your detective novel, where thoughts and actions turn the pages. The history, the laws of metaphysics, I call them fires of Prometheus, that change our vision of the God, the judge, the father, the creator, the friend. Forget the hells of fire. God is love, as Jesus said. Albert Einstein and Grigory Perelman, our modern heroes, first formulas and then the visual images. All's relative, as Albert said. Reality depends on how you see it. And Grisha Perelman has entered history by saying, I don't need a prize of $1 million. I figured out how to rule the cosmos. He gave the gift of knowledge to those whose mind is open to the future of mankind, where old age is ascension, is gift of dreams fulfilled, of healing, understanding, the gift of friendship, love, appreciation. Hey, poet, tip the scales of the planet, human to human, homo homini, may be a gift. And poet grabs a pencil and a paper and flies into his own Star Trek. Omnia mea me comporto. That's it.
Wow.
It's like omnia mea me comporto means all I have, I carry with me.
Thank you for your poem.
You're welcome.
Please make notes, take a minute and write notes, and if you pass them,
I'll scan them
you will scan them.
and
Okay.
send them to Svetlana.
Okay, so pass them to Brian. He will scan them, send them to Svetlana.
Thank you.
While you're doing that, she mentioned hundreds of billions of stars. It reminded me of something I was looking up in relation to our theme. I heard on the radio yesterday that Mars is about as close as it will ever get, which makes it about 40 million miles. If you had a football field and Mars was at one end, so it was 40 million miles, the Earth would be at the other end. The Earth would be about an inch in diameter. And the moon would be 18 inches away from the Earth. That gives you a concept of how far it is to Mars. And the sun, which controls our heat and our seasons, would be almost 2 football fields away. So imagine 2 football fields, and we're down here about this big, and the sun would be huge down at the end of 2 football fields. Madam Timer, Laurie, could we have the times of the 2 speeches, please?
Yes, whether they were saying balderdash or something of substance. Christina talked, that's the only way I can figure out how to put it. Christina talked for 7 minutes and 15 seconds, and Svetlana's introductory material took about almost 4.5 minutes, and her poem itself was 2 minutes and 20. So combine those, she's still within the 7 minutes.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, we have time for a couple of table topics, but it looks like Avital has joined us. I have a name, I don't have a picture. Are you there, Avital?
I'm here.
Okay, good. We saw you.
Sorry, I mostly just wanted to pop in and see how the internet is doing with you guys, see if it's working well and the sound's good.
We saw you walking through Nye Beach. Was it Saturday? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Sunday.
Yep. Okay. So I will turn the time over to the Table Topics Master, Jaylene, for a couple of table topics.
Thank you. Can I come up here?
Okay, sure.
All right, why
Welcome
not?
to LA.
Yeah. All right, imagine your life like it's a field that you're harvesting. That's what I think of fall. So, you know, when we grow a field of agricultural products, it's growing, it sprouts, it's getting bigger, it's getting ready for us to harvest it and do something with it next. Look at your life like that, and what are you harvesting right now in your life? What's been growing, learning? I'm gonna throw that to Avital. I haven't heard from you for a long time. Could you hear that question? I don't think she's there. Okay, I'm gonna toss it to
I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear it.
That's okay. You know what? I'll call on somebody here. You're just kind of floating in this morning. So let me call on Laura Lee. Please repeat your question. The question is, if imagine your life now as a field that you're harvesting. And the plants in that field have been growing. They're things that you've planted, imagine those are things you have learned recently. And so what have you been learning lately that you're harvesting now and actually using and practicing?
Fascinating to say so. I actually have a garden, and I've been experimenting with different plants that I've never actually used before. And actually, most of the plants that are in my garden this year, I have never planted before. I tried cauliflower for the first time this year. It worked very well, 5 pounds of cauliflower per plant. And I actually used cabbage for the first time. It actually is a nice little sprout at the moment. It's actually a winter vegetable, which I didn't know. And I also have been having beans. I think they've been hiding and just been growing like underneath all of the leaves so that they didn't get picked, so that they can live another day. But I found them all this last week. But since I'm going into school and it is raining now, I actually don't have to attend to my garden as much because it has been very dry this summer. And I'll start attending school where I will be learning with a bunch of different assignments.
Make the next question more direct. What is your favorite aspect of fall, Brian?
Well, Madam Table Topics Master and our guests, our honored guest as well. The direct question is, what is my favorite thing about fall? So I'm going to tell you about my garden and my life and the things that I'm finding as a surprise within my garden. Because as Laura Lee was saying, she has a nice garden. but there's been some things in the garden that are growing that she didn't anticipate. Like potatoes, just all of a sudden being in a garden.
Lots of potatoes.
And you think, well, I didn't plant that. And in my life, as I have been planting things, as I've been growing and as I've been learning, and as you reap what you sow, and so as you are going through life and you find little surprises in your garden of life, like you have all of a sudden you're having a Chinese service. And it has been a long time since I had a Chinese service. But because years ago, when I was in Portland, I had done some Buddhist Asian services, it was really nice to be able to reach back into my garden and my toolboxes that I have in my garden as I'm reaping and sowing and weeding, and pull out that memory of how to do all of those things and be able to serve families and have them be well served. And so, without trying to have any more balderdash within my 2 minutes max, I want to tell you that as you are reaping and sowing in your garden, so shall your life be.
Thank you, Jaylene. Give Jaylene a hand here. Laura, do we have the times for the?
Yes. Laura Lee talked about her gardening for 1 minute and 20 seconds, and Brian talked about the larger sense of gardening for 1 minute and 58 seconds.
Very good. I might mention to our guests that sometimes being the timer is the most difficult job because you get involved in the speeches and you forget to check your watch. So, please tear off a piece of paper, or you can take a whole piece of paper, pass it to Jaylene. Pardon?
Yeah.
Yes. And if you just write Norris, we won't know which one. Put down Laura Lee or
That's right.
or Brian. And we seem to have evolved to garden. So I planted broccoli and ended up with balderdash.
Cauliflower works better here. Works better in the cold.
Okay, we have time now for evaluators reports on our 2 speeches. And we will start with Brian Haggerty, who will be the evaluator for Christina. I have written down here Christina's speech. Brian is a local attorney and also a volunteer firefighter who ends up taking a full-time firefighter shift. And so when he comes in the morning, he's been out all night at the firehouse. So please welcome Brian. Yes, that's the distance to the sun.
I was going to start with a hack comment, which was to say that Christina's speech was balderdash, just so that I could get the word of the day in. But that would indeed be balderdash. Christina, you have a very fun and engaging style. It's really a pleasure to listen to you. It's not a matter of gestures. You use your whole body to convey your feelings, and it's really very effective, and it's a lot of fun. It makes things interesting. In terms of vocal variety, the one comment that I wrote was it was all wrong, which is not what I meant. It's that your vocal variety was excellent throughout, but I remember that you used that. It was all wrong, and you brought such, real feeling to that. It was just excellent. The structure of the speech, you had an excellent setup. Imagine yourself. So it brought the audience into the process. it was essentially all personal experience, and that's a very effective, I think, structure for the speech. And it's perfect, it's wrong. It sets up this dichotomy that makes the speech interesting and engaging, and brings it sets up something that needs to be resolved, and then you resolved it in the speech. All of that was excellent. You may want to work on perhaps a clearer organization in terms of opening, body, and then a resolution. And the assignment was to discuss Toastmasters mentoring. And I didn't hear you tie your mentoring into, it's what the form says. Incidentally, I love having the form. I mean, the form really ties things together. So perhaps that wasn't clear, that wasn't your intent in doing the speech. So that's as well. The thing that I think you might do to challenge yourself, you have an excellent use of colloquial speech. I noted super frustrating. And I'm just wondering if you could set yourself a task to do a more formal kind of presentation in very formal spoken English. Just a thought. The interruption that happened when Svetlana came online, I give you about a 5 out of 10 on handling that. It didn't derail you, but it took your focus for a little while. And I think a good speaker would have been able to, not that you're not a good speaker, the perfect Toastmaster speaker would have been able to shrug that off a little bit better. You used the word of the day. There's an interesting category here, audience awareness. Demonstrates awareness of audience engagement and needs. I hadn't even thought of that, but I assume that what they're saying is, do you read your audience and can you adjust your speech on the fly in order to bring your audience into it? So that's just an interesting thought, I think, for all of us. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for a wonderful speech.
And Brian, a week from Saturday and a week from Sunday, you'll be performing. Do you want to make an announcement of that?
A week from Saturday? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, Lee is setting himself up too. He does stand behind me in the choir, which is, I think, correct. We will be singing with the Central Coast Chorale and 2 other choruses, and the Newport Symphony Orchestra will be singing Beethoven's Ninth, the choral finale to Beethoven's Ninth, the Ode to Joy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. 150 voices singing at you, and the whole orchestra. We're going to knock the socks off.
Freude. Thank you, Brian. Let's go to the next. Laura Lee is a hot seat evaluator for Svetlana's speech. So let me turn the time over to Laura Lee. A great example of a young Toastmaster.
I thought Svetlana's title was the thing that got us all going, what? And as I was trying to write it as fast as possible, I only got Oblivion fireworks here. But I liked that it was an innovative planning speech, even though I didn't have the specific form for it. I have seen a Pathways form before. And I thought it had a lot of good objectives. It had a ton of them, but it has a lot of good objectives just to bring it to the front of your mind. And it's very similar to what we see in the Confident Communicator for making sure you have good gestures, good eye contact, and are engaging. For having the camera as close to her face as it was, I was glad to see Svetlana, who doesn't look like she's on anymore. She's there. She's just hiding. Okay.
I'm here. Yes.
Okay.
There she is.
Hi.
There we are.
I thought because of the location of the camera, it was great to have a lot of facial expressions because that's mostly what we can see. We can see from the shoulders up, so we focus on the face. And I saw a little bit of the hand gestures up close to your face, which was good so that we could actually see them. I find myself when I'm talking to a camera, I do a lot of my gestures down here and then realize that they are useless because no one can see them. It was a bit of a long introduction, and I think a little bit more of a pointed introduction would have given us the idea of the poetry, and we could still have a more of a flow with the poetry, if that makes sense, because you kind of sped up and then slowed down a little bit, and sped up and slowed down a bit. And I couldn't quite hear everything that you were saying just because of the speed. So I was still trying to process because we're not used to mind equals universe and neurons equals stars. And so getting that image in our head was one of the things that I thought that the next time you give this, we could just have a little bit more time to produce the image. But I thought that you had great sincerity and that we could really get the whole sense of the poetry from what you were saying, and it led from one point to the next really well. So just if you maybe have a stand for your phone so that it doesn't move as much, and then just the pace a little bit, and I think it would be a great poem just to think about.
Thank you. Laurie, can we have the times for the
Well, I think,
evaluations
Right.
and the table topics?
oh, yes. No, I already told you the table
Okay,
topics. Brian Haggerty gets the Balderdash Award. His evaluation of the speech was only 3 minutes shorter than the speech itself. 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Laura Lee was exactly right on at 3 minutes.
Brilliant, thank you. So now we'd like to have a grammarian's report. Krista?
So the tallies are in, and by far our favorite filler words are so, and we know the Norris family is the most guilty of that. And also Lee. So's, a lot of so's. As far as ums and ahs, Svetlana had the most ums and ahs, but otherwise we all need to work on our so's and trying to make words, sentences even longer. The word of the day was used 10 times by practically everyone, so that was fun. My favorite phrases were consequences of rules, universe of memory, fireworks of emotion. I love the life as a field metaphor and how it also got tied into the table topics and reaping what you're sowing. What are you harvesting? And I also just like hack comment because I love hack as a word.
Thank you. We're not talking about gardens, and so we had to talk about soap. Sometime I'll tell you about my zucchini. Table topic award.
Yes.
Chris-
Thank you. What are you giggling about?
Eileen.
Right. The table topic award goes to Mr. Brian.
Thank you.
You're good.
All right.
Smile.
Okay.
And finally, our general evaluator, Kathleen. If you'd like to come up here.
Hello, Toastmasters. I'd like to begin this evaluation by starting before the meeting began. I was very impressed at the way all the members that were here took a shine to Patty when she came. She didn't just arrive and sit, but she got to sign in, she got a name tag. Everybody enthusiastically welcomed her. And I thought that was very, very nice. And Patty, I sincerely hope that you felt comfortable enough that you would like to come and spend time with us on a regular basis. I just wanted to compliment all of you on that. Our Toastmaster came dressed for the occasion. And I have to tell you, this is important for Lee and me. We learned a long time ago during a contest evaluation how important that is. The person who won on the speech evaluation was the one who recognized that the person who had come had not dressed for the occasion. And since I didn't win, I have just been, and Lee has been very aware of how important it is to dress for the occasion when you're going to be giving a speech, particularly when being a Toastmaster. As far as evaluations are concerned, I'd just like to focus on Brian's. I grew up at a time when Marshall McLuhan's statement, "The medium is the message," was very important. And Brian was the message as well as the medium for presenting it. As Toastmasters, we walk kind of a fine line as we do these evaluations between talking specifically to the person who was speaking and also to everybody in a group so that we all learn something from that particular evaluation. Did you notice that as Brian was talking about the gestures, he had wonderful gestures as well? Did you notice that as Brian brought up certain elements of the way that you spoke, he did the same thing with his speech? And I found that entirely appropriate and very effective in your speaking. And also the fact that Brian brought up the idea that we need to be aware of our audience, I think is very important to us, especially as we are beginning our speaking, that we tend to be so focused on, am I getting my speech right? Am I saying the right things? That we often tend to forget that there are people in the audience who may or may not understand what we're saying. And so a lifted eyebrow, a smile, concern more with breakfast than with what is being said. All of these things are messages that you as speakers need to bring, need to bring in to your awareness as you want to do your speech. As far as the rest of the meeting went, lovely. I enjoyed both speeches. I enjoyed the fact that our Toastmaster was well organized, well prepared, had something for everybody and did it all in the correct order so that I really am the last speaker today. And I really appreciate that. And so it was a lovely meeting today. My compliments.
Thank you, Kathleen. So as we go into the fall and into the winter, I would hope that we could take the opportunity to turn the darkness and the less amount of sunshine into sunshine that we radiate from ourselves as we deal with other people. And the winter will be a lot shorter if we have a positive attitude about it. With that, I will turn the time back over to our president, Krista.
Next, Brian, could you please hand me up? Oh, that hand, yeah. All right. Next week, we have an opening for Toastmaster. Somebody's going to have to step up for that one. I know, Lee just did it for this week. Our first speaker will be Avital, evaluated by Lori. Speaker number 2 is Kathleen, evaluated by Brian Norris. Grammarian, Ruth. Have we checked in with Ruth to see?
I
did.
Yeah, I checked in with Ruth. She said she should be starting to attend actually as of this meeting here. So I'll check in with her again.
I'm gonna put a question mark there.
What's the role?
Grammarian.
I can step in if she doesn't get here, just as a backup.
Okay.
On the online one, it says
I could do it as a backup.
Krista.
Today, 9:18. I'm looking at 9:25.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Then table topics was Cody, but I think 2 no-shows, you get booted from the agenda. So I have no problem stepping up to do table topics. Timer is Christina. General Evaluator is Svetlana. Which leads us back to Toastmaster for next week.
I think our guest here.
That's a Toastmaster. Don't let him. That's balderdash. That is just total balderdash. Yeah.
So we had Brian here has stepped up, so thank you very much. That fills all our roles for next week. But before we go, I would just like to hear from our guests. What did you think of our meeting? Or more importantly, do you think you'd come back?
Yes, I think I will come back. As I learn more about what you all do and Toastmasters does, it's interesting. The different topics and listening to speeches. I just got back from a convention where I heard lots of different speakers, and I said my least favorite speaker was actually the president of a community college because he was the poorest speaker. He through it because I've learned that through the whole speech and kind of meandered this way and that way. And my favorite speaker was somebody that does life coaching, and because she was very enthusiastic and she moved around, and I right my face as I'm already. And she moved all around, and she engaged her audience, and so it was interesting to look at that and then come to this and see it's a similar.
And that's what we're all here to work on. So, well, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Take the spotlight off of
Yeah,
you.
yeah, right. You all have black spots.
And with that, of course, one last pitch, dues are due, and we have a leadership meeting tomorrow, right? For everyone who can make it. I think, Brian, you had said you couldn't. And
That's right.
so if you can, that'd be great. If not, sorry, but we were missing Christina and Jaylene last time, so we really need to get a meeting with both of them. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you next week. Have a great week. Bye.
You too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
It's okay. I'm the membership.
I keep waiting for you to
Share.
get tapped out.
Just
That's
true.